Awesome to see you here live. Thanks for joining me. So, next question. I've noticed that INFPs and INFJs both fall prey to perfectionism. I'm curious to know, how does perfectionism show up differently for INFJs and INFPs? Okay. There's a really short answer to this, but I just want to give a little bit of background into it, just so that we're on the same page. So the perfectionism piece comes usually from the thinker part of us. So if we have a high defined thinking part of us, or it's very unhealthy as the inner child, we tend to become we we fall prey, as the question asked, to perfectionism. And the challenge with perfectionism for INF types is that because it is our inner children, so for INFJs it's the inner 10-year-old, for INFPs is the inner 3-year-old, that makes those thinking decisions. We often, if that part of us, that decision part of us, the thinking decision making part of us, is in charge of making grown up decisions, we then talk ourselves into perfectionistic tendencies where we kind of say, hey, this here this thing here should be like this, and if it's not like this, then it has no value whatsoever. So it's a real black and white way of seeing it. But of course, the grown-up parts of us understand that feelings are also important. The grown-up parts of us also understand that, life is not black and white. So for INF types in particular, the perfectionism tends to come out at real cost, because it is those inner children who are making grown-up decisions in our lives. So with that preface, then how the perfectionism is different in for INFJs and INFPs is that because the orientation of the thinking part of us is different. So for INFPs, the orientation of the thinking 3-year-old is outward, and for INFJs, the orientation of the inner 10-year-old thinking part is inward. Now what happens is that the flavor of the perfectionism becomes it's slightly different. So for when the perfectionism is outward facing, it's focusing on things in the outside world aren't right. So if I can't control things in the outside world, then there's something wrong with me. I'm defective because I can't control what's going on in the outside world. And of course, there's no way you can control what's going on in the outside world, because there are way too many factors playing into everything. And that's how the INFP can get really overwhelmed with what's going on in the outside world, because they can't control them. Now, when it comes to the INFJ, because the perfectionism is turned inward, your thought pattern around this is, if I can't figure this out, then there's something wrong with me. So the end result is the same. If I can't INFP, if I can't control what's going on out there, there's something wrong with me. And for INFJs, if I can't figure this out, there's something wrong with me. So it's almost like the INFP perfectionism is the outside world is showing that you're defective, whereas for the INFJ perfectionism, it's like, I am now proving to myself that I'm defective. So that's kind of the big difference there, and so on. So that's what I would kind of start with. End result, of course, is the same. We feel that there's something wrong with us, and then we stop taking action because we run out of energy, and we start to believe the messaging that's coming. So that's how the perfectionism is different. It's the process of perfectionism is different, but how it actually manifests, which is there's something wrong with me, is very similar. And that's the main reason why we have this INFJ INFP group, because even though INFJs and INFPs don't actually have any 4 people in common at all, we both have collectively, we have all the 8 different people that are possible, the 8 different functions. And we have, two sets of four that are completely different from each other. So even though the functions are different, how the life kind of unfolds and how we feel about ourselves and life is very similar. So that's one of the powers of why INFJs and INFPs often get together in such a powerful way. So I hope that answers that question. The perfectionism piece really, it comes from, allowing your inner children make grown-up decisions. At some point at our development journey, we need to kind of stand up and see beyond our own struggles and see, that actually things are not as bad for us as we keep telling ourselves, or our inner decision maker, inner thinking decision maker is telling us. Things are actually much better than how they appear. So how you're feeling doesn't make you anything, because your feelings will evolve and pass and, come back and be persistent, but still keep morphing and changing. So whatever situation whatever you believe about yourself right now and whatever you're feeling right now, it's just how you're feeling or what you believe about yourself right now at this moment. Whether you choose to continue to believe those things about yourself, that's also your choice. Whether you choose to change your perception and how you feel about yourself, that's also your choice. And we don't feel that often when we're in the depths of despair. But I'm just here to remind you that we do have those choices.